25 years old. He was born on February 16th, 1925. My name is Cameron and Taylor, and I'll be interviewing Daniel. Is my grandpa. Could you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
I served in World War II in the Army, the United States Army.
What was your rank?
I was a sergeant.
What did you serve?
Where did I serve? In Europe. It was called the European Theater of War.
How many years did you serve in?
I served 2 years.
So you served in the Army. Where were you living at the time?
I was living in Walkerton, Indiana, when I was drafted into the Army.
How did you happen to serve in this war?
I was drafted.
What were you doing before you were drafted or enlisted?
I was a farmer. I'm going to high school.
Did anyone else in your family serve in the military?
Yes, I had 2 brothers and 2 brother-in-laws serving in the Army.
Can you tell me about adapting to your military life, physical, reading, embarrassed, food, social life?
Well, it was hard for me. The first time I'd ever been away from home for any length of time. I wanted to come home. I think most young men of my age, the first time they'd ever been away from home, wanted to come home. So it was kind of an adjustment to make.
How did you choose the branch of service you served in?
Well, I had a choice at the induction center to either go in the Army Air Corps, which was the Air Force now, it was called the Army Air Corps then. And I had a choice of going into the Navy or the Army Air Corps. But I had 2 brothers in the Army, so I thought, well, that was the place for me. So I went into the Army.
What kind of training did you have?
I had 17 weeks of infantry training.
How did, friendships formed? What friendships did you form?
I beg your pardon, I didn't understand
What friendships did you form?
Oh, I formed, usually you would befriend one person or maybe 2, and they would be close friends throughout your military career.
Where did you serve?
Where did I serve?
Yes.
In Europe. In the U.S. and Europe.
What actions or duties away from the front line?
What action did I do away from the front line? Well, when we would be up on the front line for a period of time, and then we would pull back for a time of rest, probably. During that time, we didn't really have too much to do. We had to stand guard duty. When we were back, we had to stand guard duty, and because we always had to be on guard, even when we were back from the front line, because we were in enemy territory.
Okay. How did you stay in touch with those back home?
How did we what?
How did you stay in touch with people back home?
Oh, by letter. The only means that we had then was by letter. And also, when you wrote a letter, you had to be careful what you wrote, because they would censor it. That means that they would take out what wasn't supposed to be in there. So you had to write only things that were allowable to be sent through the mail, because the enemy could get a hold of those things that you told about where you were, or what the division was doing, or what the company you were in that was doing, or where you were at. then the enemy could get a hold of that. So we had to be very careful what we wrote in the letters.
What did you do for reaction off-duty activities?
Recreation.
We usually would off duty here at home in the United States. We would go to town and go to a movie or go to a restaurant and get a good meal, which was better than what we got in the Army.
Where were you still overseas when the war ended?
No, I was not. When the war ended in Europe, they brought my division back here to the United States for some training, waiting for the invasion of Japan. That's where we were supposed to go, to the invasion of Japan. But they dropped the bomb on the Japanese, and that ended the war, so I didn't have to go. I was stationed at Camp Shelby, Mississippi at the time.
How did you return home?
I returned home by ship, a troop ship. I was the only means then of transporting troops. They didn't have the transport airplanes to fly us home then like they do now. So we had to come back home by ship.
How long did it take?
Pardon?
How long were you on the ship?
It took us 8 days to come back from England, from France, I'm sorry. We boarded the ship in France, and it took us 8 days to come back to Virginia.
What reception by the family or community?
Well, very well received. I'm sorry. We were very well received, and I was very happy to be back home. In fact, it was a great thing to get back to the U.S. soil. When we came into the harbor, we could see the lights. First time we saw lights. They didn't have no lights over there. Everything was dark.
How hard was it to return to civilian life?
It wasn't hard at all. I was glad to be out of the military.
Are you a member on any veterans organization?
Yes, I'm a member of the American Legion.
Any contract with fellow veterans? Contact?
Do you keep in contact with any of your...
Yes, some, not very many. We were from all different parts of the United States.
How has being in the military affected your life?
It made me appreciate life. You're glad to be alive, and only by the grace of God that I'm alive today.
What lessons did you learn?
I learned to appreciate life. I learned a lot of things. I learned to appreciate the help of others and the friendship that I had with others and what they did to help me and to befriend me. When we were in combat, we watched out for each other.
Is there any stories that you would like to tell us?
Well, there are a lot of stories, but
Any funny stories about bad food or...
well, now the military food was never the best at that time, and the thing that I really hated was their stew. When we went in, I went in Omaha Beach, where the invasion was in Normandy. We went up on the top of the hill there, and they fed us corned beef and Spam. And to this day, I don't like Spam. We was in a tent, and it was raining most of the time and was muddy. And we get out of the tent in the morning, it was cold, and go out to the chow line and you get some Spam for breakfast.
Can you show us any of your photographs and stuff? Or letters? Yeah, or letters.
Yeah, I have a letter here, letter of commendation, commending me for my duty, and this was a letter for the battle for the fortress city of Metz. The Germans nicknamed us the Iron Men of Metz because they couldn't stop us. And that motto has stuck with the division till this day. I was in the 95th Division. You can see the division patch here, the shoulder patch that we wore right here. It says a 9V. That was a 95th Division. And this is a letter signed by General George Patton. Right here's his signature on the bottom. This is commending me for my service there in the battle for the city of Metz. Metz was a city that was surrounded by forts. It hadn't been conquered since the 4th century. They had belonged to the Germans. It was a French city. And that was my first major battle. And this letter here explains what took place during that battle and the conditions that we fought under. So you can have a chance to read that. Also, I have another letter. This was the 3rd Army. My division was in the 3rd Army at that time. And then, after we crossed the Rhine River, which was the border between France and Germany, I was transferred to the 9th Army. And this general was General Simpson. And this is a letter of commendation from General Simpson, saying that I was in that battle for the Ruhr Valley and the crossing of the Rhine River. Also, here are my medals that I received. This is a combat infantry badge. This is what the rifleman received for being in combat. This is the expert rifleman's badge here. I fired the M1 rifle 500 yards and I became expert with it. This is the Bronze Star. This is supposed to be for some heroic action I did, which I don't know what it was. But anyway, this is the 3rd Army patch here. This was General Patton's army. This was the 9th Army patch, shoulder patch of war, the General Simpson. And this was my division patch here, the 95th Division patch. And these were the ribbons that we wore. These 3, I don't know if you can see it or not, those 3 bronze stars there was battle stars for major battles. Those three bronze stars was for, one of them was for the fortress city of Metz. The other one was for the Rhine River, and the other one was for the Moselle River. From the Ruhr River. This is my dog tags down here at the bottom, yeah. These other were different medals here. This was the European theater for serving in the European theater of war at that time. And there's the bronze stars on top of it there. This is a Meritorious Service Award here. This is for honorable service, this little pin right here. This was Good Conduct Medal. So I must have done something good.
Is there anything else?
That's probably it. That probably covers it.
There's your
Only.
No, that's not anything.
No, that's not it.
Thank you.
Another thing that was, you're always scared. So when you're in combat, you're scared, and you have to live each day as if it could be your last day. So that's the kind of condition you were under.
Is that it?
Okay, yeah. Any more questions?
Thank you for interviewing us. And
You're-
this is Cameron and Taylor Fishbeck interviewing.
Thank you.